Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Kabir Considers. In this video, we're going to react to 10 times newsreaders cried on live television. Newsreaders usually, they've gone through tons of training, to get that job. Loads of, I don't know whether it's auditions, but they have to go through, it's not easy to be a newsreader. So these people are like real professionals, they're consummate professionals. So for them to cry while doing their job, they've got to be covering a horrific story, like something really, really sad has happened. Or maybe off air, they've had news that a family member or something has passed away. It's got to be something really big to cause a newsreader to break down in tears, while the cameras are rolling.
Close the programme tonight. I have some very sad news to share with you all.
Welcome to Watch Mojo UK, and today we're looking at 10 heartbreaking instances where news presenters were brought to tears on air. The Queen's passing.
And I'm extremely sorry to have to bring you the exceptionally sad news that Her Majesty the Queen has died.
The passing of Queen Elizabeth II shook countless people throughout the nation, but not everyone had to try and hide their emotions on live television. For Talk TV, it was Vanessa Phelps who had to deliver the news, and that was no easy feat.
What sad news. I'm joined in the studio by my colleague, Mike Graham. Gosh, it's overwhelming to have to break the news.
Having served the country for so many years, many members of the British public were rightfully heartbroken by her passing, and Phelps, despite feeling this emotional weight, still managed to present the news with dignity. Mike Graham later joined the feed and was visibly in a state too.
It's tough.
It is. It really is very, very tough indeed.
Climate crisis.
The weather.
Yeah, it was a sad day. It was a sad day for sure, Yeah, she was old. She was really, really old, but you thought she'd be around forever,
Here, and the fact that the ice is melting disrupts the jet stream, it changes the weather in the UK.
Climate change is a very real predicament that seemingly few corporations are willing to take action against. GMB's weather reporter Laura Tobin flew to Norway to see firsthand the worrying effects of the climate crisis.
Inspiring, breathtaking and devastating. And I came here, I've been away from Charlotte for 6 days.
She noted that she had never been away from her daughter this long, and even showed the audience at home a drawing she was asked to give to a polar bear while she was there.
My little Charlotte drew this picture of a polar bear, and she asked me to give it to the polar bear. I'm obviously not, because that's very dangerous. But, if I were to come here when she's my age, there potentially won't be polar bears in Svalbard.
It was this combination of seeing the impact of rising temperatures and missing her daughter that caused Tobin to break down in tears.
Everyone making a difference, and everyone working together and not pointing fingers.
Ice Lake tragedy. In December.
Yeah, we need to do something about climate change. I think a lot of people, because we're not really suffering the consequences of it yet in a big way. I think a lot of people are kind of putting it by the wayside. But if it gets to the point where, the air quality gets so bad that we can't breathe, what do we do then?
December 2022, one news story proved to be too much for the BBC's Joanna Gosling. As she spoke about the tragic news of 3 children perishing after falling through an iced lake in Solihull, Gosling couldn't hide her emotions. She soon began choking up reading the report and had to pause to compose herself before apologising to viewers, which wasn't necessary.
Reports the emergency crews got there incredibly quickly, within 7 minutes.
Yeah, this was a sad story.
But very sadly, we have heard that 3 of those boys have died.
Many viewers that saw the clip praised Gosling for getting through the heartbreaking segment.
Yeah,
Goodbyes.
Thank you for keeping me company over the years.
Leaving a job behind can be an emotional task, but most people don't have to say goodbye to an entire nation.
Now, it is just about time for me to say goodbye for the last time. I'm signing off after 23 years at BBC News.
While many presenters have given a brief and stoic sign-off, Joanna Gosling gave one that spoke directly from the heart. She was grateful for her time spent reading the news and thanked both her colleagues as well as those watching at home.
Is why I came into journalism, to give a voice, lend an ear, and shine a light.
While Gosling is still in the public eye as a radio host, leaving BBC News after 25 years filled her with tears of both joy and sadness.
Lucky me to have had this great job that's never felt like a job. Thank you for having me.
Fishmonger's Hall attack.
Yeah, it must be a pretty good job, to be fair. not easy because you've got to be able to think on your feet and stuff. You can't like get flustered, but yeah, fun job still.
The horrific events of 2019's Fishmongers Hall attack resulted in 2 people losing their lives. When it came time for newsreader Jane Hill to read out the juror's statement during the inquest, it clearly affected her deeply.
The jury would like to send their heartfelt condolences to the families of Saskia and Jack and all who love and miss these 2 wonderful people.
These 2 very young people's lives being taken by the attacker was emotionally devastating, and the quivering in Hill's voice, as well as her long pauses, portrayed that.
They touched the lives of so many.
Sad.
And we want to convey to the families how seriously we've taken our responsibility. I'm so sorry, it is a very, very emotional statement.
Learning of how good-natured the 2 victims were, both just in their early 20s, clearly resonated with Hill in this emotional clip. A moving video.
Early 20s, man. Like at the start of their lives.
Last night, it was incredibly busy. There were vigils here, there were vigils at the Eiffel Tower.
The 2015 attack in Paris, France, resulted in hundreds of injuries and fatalities. This, of course, left the country in mourning. For BBC News, reporter Graham Satchell was in the capital, speaking outside a memorial for the victims. He talked about the hope the community had developed due to the moving tributes and vigils across the city.
The Eiffel Tower was lit up in red, white and blue, which I think is a sign of hope. Sorry.
With that, a wave of emotion enveloped him. Immediately, Satchell apologised for his understandable reaction as he held back tears.
There is certainly hope here in Paris anyway, but that is back to you.
Graham, thank you very much indeed.
Struggling to continue, he passed it back to the studio before walking off-screen. Former home. 2022 saw Ukraine being attacked by Russia, and though the images of the devastation affected British viewers at home, one particular journalist had a far more personal attachment to the tragedies.
I've just got a message from my mom. Finally, I couldn't reach her.
She is in Kiev itself.
Yeah,
she's been taking shelter with your family.
She's been taking shelter. She's hiding in the basement.
Ukrainian journalist Olga Malcheska sat with Karen Gioni to commemorate the footage seen from Kiev.
Actually, at 3 a.m. London time, I would find out that actually my home is bombed.
What made this so hard for Olga was that she lived in Kiev growing up, and that the images were of the building she lived in with her family.
Wow, look at that building.
And you're talking about that actual building?
Yeah, and this actual building is my home.
Oh my God.
Some did criticise Gioni's line of questioning at the visibly distraught journalist, but she still managed to answer them with grace.
Olga, we really appreciate what it must be like for you to talk about this.
I just can't link in my head, that what I'm seeing is actually somewhere where I used to live.
A personal
Man, this whole Ukraine conflict, part of me, honestly, I'm following it quite closely, and the reality is Ukraine just doesn't have the manpower to win this war. They just don't have the manpower. Like the West can, like the US, UK, we can continue to send as many weapons as possible. But if there's not enough men to use those weapons, you can't win a war like this. It's sad just seeing so many Ukrainian men die, every single day. I think we need to try and reach some kind of conclusion now, because I just see it as a proxy war now at this point, that Ukraine just has very little chance of winning.
Experience.
I was getting into my car and noticed there was some really nasty vile language coming out from an individual against what appeared to be a student, an Asian student.
It's not often we get personal accounts on the news, but that's what happened on BBC News in 2016. Journalist Trisha Dulu came onto the show and sat down to talk about the fallout of Brexit. She spoke about a horrible interaction she and someone else had, where they were on the receiving end of some horrific, racially charged language from a stranger on the street.
You're not supposed to... Oh gosh, yeah, definitely.
Have you ever had that before?
Never. Sorry.
No.
Sorry.
I mean, I'm actually shaken as well to hear it.
The incident had clearly left her shaken, as just recalling what happened left her visibly upset. She said she had rarely been treated with such malice, and really, in this day and age, it should not be happening at all.
I don't like using the N-word, and I haven't heard it directly to me, but it was shocking.
Interviewing a hero.
Reminds me of the first and only time I was racially abused in school. Yeah, guy in my class used the N-word at me because I went to a predominantly white school. I think I was the only white guy there for like 3 years. Really enjoyed it, like had a great time at school. But yeah, this one guy called me the N-word, and yeah, I was devastated because it never happened to me before. The school kicked him out for, I think he was suspended for like 2 weeks. But yeah, that feeling, it was horrible. It's horrible.
I'm going to take you back to another story that we've been reporting on this morning, a horrific accident which none of us can really comprehend.
While Good Morning Britain has been criticised for its reporting over the years, one moment that was unquestionably genuine was when Susanna Reid spoke to a man who risked his own life to save a baby from a submerged vehicle. Sadly, out of the 5 people in the vehicle, the baby was the only one who was rescued.
Oh, unimaginable. I'm speechless. The situation is awful that you faced. And you're an absolute hero for rescuing that baby.
You are, thank you.
And I know you're going to meet Mum later on today.
While speaking to this hero, David Walsh, Susanna was overcome with emotion and had trouble finishing her questions.
I know that you're feeling a slight sense of guilt that you couldn't save the others, but you saved a baby's life.
It was up to Piers Morgan to take over the interview while Susanna composed herself. The passing of George Alagaya.
Heartbreaking news for the BBC.
Gosh, that baby, that baby's... I'm assuming it's the family, obviously, the baby was in the car with. They're all gone. Yeah, hopefully the baby gets, obviously, the care it needs. It'll probably be adopted into a family. But when he or she learns the truth about what happened, hopefully they don't have, like, survivor's guilt, like, why me,
And the wider world of broadcast journalism. George Alagaya, one of our most highly respected and much-loved presenters, has died.
While many of the previous entries covered nationwide tragedies, this one was much more personal for several of the presenters at BBC News.
He was a friend.
George Alagaya was a prolific figure in the news industry, even being awarded an OBE for his work.
His spirit, strength and courage in the later years of his life are something his family can be so proud of. Journalism has lost a giant.
But more than that, George was said to be a wonderful human being, as is evident by the heartwarming messages from his peers following his passing at the age of 67.
We've learnt that from his agent. Apologies for the emotion in my voice. He was so loved in our newsroom.
His impact was clearly felt by the team, many of whom were brought to tears when reporting his death in 2023. Did you see any of these heartbreaking moments live on television? Let us know in the comments below.
Yeah, that has to be so difficult. Your friend has passed away, like, a colleague that you've worked with for maybe decades, and you have to report on that story as it happens, because obviously, journalists have to cover stories as they happen. So you've not had time to process it or grieve or anything. That must have been super difficult, really, really hard. The other, like the one with the 3 boys who fell into the lake and it froze over. Oh, that was just, gosh, can you imagine seeing those? Oh, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.